Hey everybody, it's Ken here. Hope everyone had a wonderful spring break last week. Right now, I found this wonderful spot where there's a couple rocks to sit down. You can see here, you got pretty nice covering spot, like a sort of a nice place to sit down. All over here, let me show you around a little bit where I'm at. Pretty nice place though. I mean, not gonna lie, it's pretty good, and this is probably gonna be my go-to if I have the time to come here, as I'm gonna be expecting that perhaps maybe in the next couple of weeks I'm gonna hear more about the internships I applied to, and depending on the outcome of that, I may not have time to do a lot of these hikes that I tend to do every morning before I come to class. So, while it's a bit sad for that to happen, but I have a weekend to go do hiking if I have time. And not to mention that I'm still going to be in California for a while after I graduate, so I'll still have a chance to come back here, though. So, for anyone who doesn't know, CSU East Bay has a lot of good hiking trails that you can go on that are pretty amazing, by the way. They're awesome, they're cool, and I think that it's something that people should do more often. Go out in the outdoors. It's fun, it's relaxing, and it's a good way to mentally recharge after a long day of work and school and a lot of the day-to-day responsibilities that take up so much of our time that don't give us a lot of time to reflect or just take care of yourself. As for me, personally, I think mental health is very essential to my being, taking care of it specifically. And sometimes I find that STEM can be a rather dry field to be in the sense that it's a rather dry and technical field that it's very focused on logic and thinking and a lot of the more material stuff of everyday life. So, for example, since I'm a math major, I'm a stats major right now, a lot of the talk that we're going to have sometimes does lean towards the technical side, where we talk about machine learning algorithms, or if we're talking, say, in computer science courses, where it's a lot about designing algorithms, and where so much of your headspace is occupied by the thought of runtime, optimizing algorithms, memoization, all these different theoretical computer science concepts that sometimes are detached from humanity in some ways. While they could be used to serve humanity, they're essentially tools in themselves. And sometimes in this space, it can be very hard to really connect with people when so much of our thought process is sort of consumed by a lot of this material interest and technical pursuits, which, don't get me wrong, I think they're valuable, but at the same time, it can be very disconnecting, especially since at the end of the day, we're all human beings with our vulnerabilities, our concerns, and essentially a lot of parts of us that make us flawed, but at the same time makes us who we are as beautiful human beings. And it's part of my own life journey to not lose sight of that, no matter where I go. And it's part of why I chose the major statistics, because while statistics is a very technical field to begin with, it doesn't get as technical or as abstract as computer science can be, as I do see that common humanity that statistics shares with, say, a social science degree. Because the thing about statistics is that it's all about data. But the thing about data is that when I look at it, I don't see a data point. I see something that represents something of value to human being. So when I'm doing a survey or I'm distributing a survey to people, every survey, every data point I collect represents something human about that person. So if I'm doing a survey, maybe the data point might be, how are they feeling today from a scale of 0 to 9 or 10? That may be a data point from a technical standpoint, but for me, it represents something about that person. So I see that kind of humanity, or just how statistics is just so in touch with it, that I feel that it's the right major for me to do. And it's why I feel so connected to it, though. Despite it being essentially a technical degree, or more generally, a STEM degree. So those are just a couple of my thoughts on the statistics major in general, and just how I find mental health to be very essential to me, though. And this is just beyond the pandemic, though, but this is just everywhere else, too. So, yeah. Anyway, what is it? So, how am I doing school-wise? So, I would say school is going pretty okay. I mean, it's not the best, but it could be worse. My grades are okay. I mean, I'm still kind of struggling a little bit with Stat 632, which is where you learn linear and logistic regression. That midterm I did, that first midterm, man, it really crushed me, as I didn't realize that I should have invested a lot more matrix algebra than I thought. Or actually, not matrix algebra, but I should have invested more into a lot of what I learned in 620 a little bit more seriously, and took a little bit more seriously. As on that midterm, it talked a lot about covariance, just proving variance formulas, which are all taught in Stat 620, where you learn about probability theory and statistical theory. So, for any of you who are going into this major, don't forget to pay attention to a lot of what you're taught in Stat 620. I mean, some of it you don't use, but some of these concepts will repeat itself in future classes. While classes such as linear logistic regression and analysis or design of experiments may not rely entirely on 620, they do make references to it. And I can imagine that for the next course I'm about to take next semester, which is Stat 640, which is Advanced Statistical Theory, I imagine they're going to make a lot of references to a lot of the things that I was taught in 620, which is probability and statistical theory. So, especially when it comes to concepts such as maximum likelihood functions and dealing with, say, Jacobians, and all of that, those are really essential. So, hopefully I get time over the break or even summer to go over those concepts and to make sure that I have that better sharp mental acuity and that knowledge needed to really make the most out of my time in Stat 640, as it's going to be a pain if I come to Stat 640 and I don't have my fundamentals of Stat 620 down. So that's something for me to work on, and that's something I hope that you guys take to heart when you all end up doing Stat 640, to not just pay attention to Stat 620, but make sure you learn it, as it's going to come up in future courses, and it's also going to come up on the comprehensive exam, which we all have to take at the end of our program. So keep that in mind, and hope I didn't scare all you folks out there, but that's just something that I want to put out there. Yeah, but overall, my coursework is okay. Design experiments, experimental design, that course, Stat 631, that one is actually pretty good, pretty interesting, though. There's a lot of concepts to be sure, but it's actually pretty decent, of course. Doing okay. Sometimes it can be hard to get into the concepts, but overall, it's pretty nice. And then what else? Well, I guess that's pretty much it I have about my life as a student here. As it's just kind of general business. Perhaps it's because I've done my undergrad here in a CSU, so I do get the vibe of what is expected out of me. I mean, that's the thing about being a grad student, is that compared to being an undergraduate, generally, when you're a grad student, you typically tend to be a lot more focused on what you want out of your career, and you're a lot more disciplined when it comes to being a student, in a sense, as I'm assuming for all you grad students or potential grad students out there, that from your by the time you get your undergraduate degree, you probably got a general rhythm or flow on how to navigate student life, how to life as a student. Maybe your study habits, an exploration of your career interest and what kind of person you want to be, and all these things that really are essential to your development as a fully realized person. Yeah. As compared to undergrad, I actually appreciate my time here as a grad student, as I think ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be around people who are honest and valuable, honest, real, and thoughtful connections with each other, as I don't really have much time for the superficial. I don't. I like to get to know people, get deep conversations with them, and really get to know them on a deep and personal level. Because I think to truly know someone, you have to see every side of a person, even the sides that you don't like. For once you see every side of a person, you acknowledge and you accept them and you understand them. That's when you truly know and love someone. And I take that approach to heart when I meet people. And of course, not everyone's going to want that. That's okay. Who knows why they have the reasons for that. But I think that's a good boundary to set. And fortunately, there are people out there that do value that. And thankfully, I found a couple of folks during my time in grad school so far that do appreciate that. I mean, the students that I'm around, they're generally a lot more mature and more focused than a lot of students I met in undergrad, which, to be fair, I mean, I can understand why some undergrads may feel that way. I mean, they're young, it's their first degree. Some people are just doing the degree to get it over with. I mean, it's the first degree you got to get. You can just get almost anywhere. I mean, I get that. But I think from a personal development standpoint, I prefer something like grad school, because you're around people who share similar goals and interests as you, who probably are well established as students or in somewhere in the industry. So they really have that kind of maturity and responsibility that's kind of developed in them already. As typically when you go to grad school, you go there because you want to be there. Whereas with undergrad, most people just go there because they have to, as it's the bare minimum degree that you need to get almost any kind of job out there. So grad school is kind of a step up. It weeds out people who are only doing it just to get it over with, or just people who don't know what they want, and it hones in on the people that are actually there because they want to be there. So I think it adds to the quality of the experiences that I'm getting in grad school. I mean, surely this depends on the kind of school you're going to, as well as the culture and the environment of the faculty and the staff, for sure, and the school itself. But I think, in general, grad school tends to be a lot more impactful in terms of experiences than, say, undergrad. Not to say that undergrad is not meaningless. I mean, I'm just speaking from my own experience, though, having done undergraduate degree at a CSU, but it does kind of come off that way, now that I think of it. So, yeah. Well, I think it's time for me to get back. I mean, I got class in about an hour or two. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in to me. Hope you all are having a wonderful spring and summer. And I'll hope you all stay tuned for the next vlog, whatever that may be. Gosh, busy schedule, but I'll try to keep some up if I can. So anyway, thank you all and take care.